Good
Morning.
morning.
Well, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am fine considering all the crazy things we're learning this week.
Yes, thank you. Can I just say, before we even get to the Supreme Court, I said this earlier in the show. We were playing some John Brennan sound bites, and I've said this, Malcolm. When lifelong intelligence professionals like you, like John Brennan, are hair on fire, there is a reason to be concerned. The president is willing to harm national security, expose our sources and methods to try to. While he is the target of an investigation, he's trying to release information about it's private
Right.
text messages from an ongoing criminal investigation.
And
Explain how dire that is.
I heard that this morning, and you are absolutely right. Of all the crazy things going on, Nintendo Toads aside, this aspect of the Trump Russia investigation is clearly the most dangerous and the most insidious. We have a potential target, if not an actual target, of a federal investigation is literally using U.S. intelligence, the investigatory powers of the FBI, and is going to out information and other assets, people, and methodologies to cover for himself and to cover up potentially crimes. And how there is not national outrage about this is beyond me, because this is literally him. When he talks about rigging the system, this is rigging the system.
I mean, yes. As I keep saying, Malcolm, everyone except for you is entirely too calm, in my opinion, about the fact that we have an active Russian asset with the nuclear codes that is willing to do anything to get away with what happened in 2016. Take a listen to John Brennan and want to get your reaction. John
Sure.
Brennan.
Well, I think Christopher Wray, Director of FBI, and Dan Coats, Director of National Intelligence, as well as Rod Rosenstein, who is overseeing this investigation, should push back against any directive that is going to have negative impact on our capabilities, as well as the investigation. So I think they should continue to push. If Mr. Trump and the White House does not relent, well, then I think they have some decisions to make, whether or not they're going to just not follow that direction and be fired, or to resign. If they
Exactly. I mean,
Wow.
he clearly is ordering the release of private text messages from who he
No.
considers his political enemies.
No, and I agree with John wholeheartedly here. It's time for the people in the government to, Director Coates, Director of National Intelligence, Christina Haspel, the Director of the CIA. They need to just stand up and say, no, this is not happening. And Ray, as Director of the FBI, they need to stand up and say, this is just not going to happen. We are not going to declassify our sources and methodologies. And there's another component to this, and I'm sure John McLaughlin and John Brennan, amongst others, have been saying quite loudly, the people who will really read these documents if they're declassified are the people who are foreign intelligence officers who are infiltrating agents and assets into the United States. And they will be looking for how the FBI does its business.
Yep.
And even though it's Carter Page, okay, Carter Page was suspected of being an handled asset of Russian intelligence. And if you release the information that we secretly took to the FISA court to convince them that he was a Russian intelligence asset or a Kremlin spy or whatever you want to call them, then you are telling them how we did it and how they will immediately scrub everything they have ever done. They will immediately check with all their other assets who are in the United States outside of the White House, and they will get them. They will determine what methodologies will better protect them from being identified by the FBI. This is. I keep not wanting to go to the T word,
Yeah.
but this is damn near
Yeah.
traitorous.
Yeah. Really good point. Let me give you one more John Brennan. Here he is.
If
Sure.
they really believe that this is going to have serious impact on our national security, law enforcement, and judicial process, they have an obligation, since they took an oath of office to the Constitution of the United States, not to Mr. Trump, to uphold their responsibilities and their agency and departments' authorities.
That is a really good point, right? Right.
Absolutely. It's absolutely is a good point. The Constitution is the one consistency we have. I'm here in Philadelphia these days. I am literally 10 blocks from where the American experiment was written down and started. And we have people who on the other side of the ledger who no longer appear to believe in that. And I got in trouble with Fox News over this when I said, there were military veterans and people who work in the administration who appear to have sworn their oath to Donald Trump and not to the Constitution, and that he is now their touchstone on what is right and what is decent and what is correct and lawful in America. And that right there is the problem.
Well,
and there we go. I'm all shouty McShoutface now.
This is what I love about you. There's not enough shouting, in my opinion.
But there isn't. This is an anathema. We really should stop it. So what was your next point?
I'm the opposite of that. What's the Steve Carell thing? The I don't know what we're yelling about. I'm the opposite. I'm like, why aren't more people yelling?
That's right. Right. You're absolutely right. People should be yelling from the rooftops.
Thank you.
And we're relying on our intelligence professionals to do it, and then dead silence from our obsequious Politburo like Congress.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it's the one or two Democrats that are doing it also are not shouting loud enough.
Yes. Yep. And by the way, speaking of, dictatorships and, the loyalty to the Constitution and not to the president, did you see this thing? Trump feels betrayed by Representative Ron DeSantis, Florida Republican, who didn't go along with his Hurricane Maria conspiracy theory. I mean, this is how down the rabbit hole we are.
That's
right.
Crazy.
He could hardly be a bigger Trump sycophant and suck up, but because he won't say 3,000 people didn't die in, what do you call it, Hurricane Maria, now he's dead to Trump. Like
he has a onesie for his baby.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, this was the guy who made the commercials, who did put his baby in a onesie, wants to raise them up so that they understand, Trump's America. And if you are not a sucking sycophant, if you are not slavishly devoted bootlick, and this is where Trump's personal vulgarity, his invirtuousness, his ability to make people debase themselves. It's like Rick, the book, everything that Trump touches dies.
Yeah.
And it's true. These people will be burned forever. Every intern, every employee, and I said this, a year and a half ago, we are entering a Benedict Arnold moment in American history to where the betrayal will be so hot and so deep that every person who was appointed by them will be suspicious. And also from a counterintelligence perspective, when we find people who have worked for a foreign nation as an intelligence asset or spy or whatever you want to call it, the first thing we do is we scrub every person who's ever been in contact with them. I had an incident when I worked at the National Security Agency. We had a guy, it turned out he had left the agency and had turned traitor, and for $36,000 sold a multi-billion-dollar operation to the Russians.
Oh my God.
And the first thing they did, everyone that worked on the third floor with him, every person was hauled in to check out to see whether they were working. They had met him at the water cooler and were in cahoots with him. That's what's going to happen to every person who has ever accepted a commission from Trump, worked from Trump, and technically anyone who voted for him. They're going to turn radioactive.
Yep. I hope when Mueller's done, we, at the end of the day, put on our money in Mueller we trust. Did you see it looks like he really has pardon-proofed this Manafort deal.
Oh, my God.
Right?
I heard you say that earlier in the show. That is brilliant. I mean, this guy, that's what we call a significant intelligence indicator, all right? Yeah. It's one of those unambiguous things that tell you where the intentions of what they're doing in their operation. His intention is he's going to save the nation.
Yeah.
He is not playing games. Everyone was really in the dark about what he really meant, whether he was going to pull his punches. That man said, no one's getting pardoned from this point onward.
Yeah.
You talk to me, I will make sure that you will go to jail for the rest of your life if you accept a pardon from someone who is as tainted as Donald Trump. Yeah. And Manafort understood that. All 17 counts that he pled guilty on, if he accepts a pardon, those all go back into play. And they're document cases, right?
Yep.
So no witnesses. You're going to go to jail and you will die, literally, for Donald Trump.
What? Yeah, and let me get your take on the Flynn sentencing. So Mueller has requested the judge move forward with sentencing for Flynn. Jonathan Turley said these are the types of moves a prosecutor makes when they're entering the final stage of an investigation or prosecution. What people have to be cautious about is that Mueller could be wrapping up aspects of the investigation while continuing to explore other aspects.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's your take?
I think that you recall from the very beginning to what is this, the 19th of September, 2 years and 1 month ago, I said that there were multiple indications of multiple dirty tricks teams, multiple ones. You have Flynn on one hand, you had Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. on the other hand, you have Roger Stone doing a third. They all appear not to have been in communication with each other except for Flynn and Manafort. So these people will win the presidency at all costs. When we win, we're masters of the universe and no one can investigate us. And I think that, Manafort is, not Manafort, Mueller is wrapping up his Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Carter Page, and, the early participants in this. And I think he's going straight to sentencing. I think Flynn will get a small sentence. I think he'll get 6 months or less. But you have to understand, he milked Flynn like a cow really early on. Flynn was the first guy to go down, and that means he knows everything about everything that has ever occurred in this. And now, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If Flynn, if it turns out that his recommendation is like 2 to 3 years for Flynn, then that tells you that he was dirty alpha foxtrot. I mean, that there were big things going on and that he was complicit in all of them.
You tweeted to George Papadopoulos, you said, we should scrub all our allied diplomats to see if you confessed your part in a conspiracy against the United States, to see if they know if you were a Russian asset. Hope you confessed all this to Mueller.
Papadopoulos on Twitter, what is his malfunction?
Yeah.
What is he doing there?
Yeah.
Is he trying to clean up his reputation? Is he trying to become an MSNBC contributor? But the things he's saying is almost as if he's trying to say, I wasn't really guilty of everything that I told Mueller. He's trying to essentially say that the Australians trapped him in that, in what he was caught on. And I don't get it. He's starting to go into the Carter page. Is he going to wear one of those crazy red hats soon? He's going into the Carter page.
That didn't even look good on Gilligan.
Do it. Oh my God! It looked good on Madeleine, though. So.
It didn't look good on Gilligan, and he didn't have access to any other hat on the island. So,
God,
you
so
also you tweeted about Hillary's editorial. She was amazing last night on Maddow. You said she goes on a righteous frontal attack against Trump. But what I like is she uses the same word you and Brennan and a lot of people use: crisis. We're in a crisis.
Right.
I'm so glad that Hillary Clinton read the epilogue to The Plot to Destroy Democracy, my last book, and decided to write her own epilogue for her paperback version, which is identical to mine. It was all about American democracy and global democracy is under attack by these people, and that we need to stand up and save it. And we are going to. Things are happening. There's going to be, things are going to happen in this world. And when the call to mobilize comes, everyone, you have 6 million listeners a day. Everyone needs to understand that you, your wife, your kids, your dog, the people who you talk to, you are our only salvation this November 6th.
Yep.
No, we are not just the cavalry. Okay.
Yep.
We have to stand up. I like to quote the musical Hamilton. We are outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, outplanned. And we got to make an all-out stand. And this is it. And Hillary is now standing up because she's like her and Obama. They've had enough of it. Yep.
And by the way, and this is why Malcolm Nance has signed up to serve once again with the sexy liberal kickoff this Saturday in Washington, D.C. As Malcolm tweets, American democracy is on the ballot. We are 50-ish days from save democracy or losing it forever. It is not hyperbole. It's not just talk. If you vote one time in your life, vote this midterm. Malcolm, that is why we are working with Tom Steyer. Our group is Need to Impeach, Need to Vote for the Sexy Liberal Blue Wave Tour. It is all about getting out the vote. You and Daryl Hammond and John Fugelsang, Carl Frisch, Bob Seska, and I will all be kicking off the Blue
Well,
Wave Tour.
let me tell you something. Plug for myself. If you people are not following me on Twitter right now, all right, and you didn't retweet that quote that I had there about this being the last chance for democracy,
Yep.
it only has about 7,000 retweets, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Okay, I see tweets about Nintendo Toads getting 100,000 retweets. We are in trouble. And I'm going to give this same story on Saturday at Sexy Liberal, right? I'm giving you your last warning before I go on a tour of Europe to warn all the Democrats abroad that you need to whip it out and you need to get on this game. This is not a joke. We're in trouble.
Yep.
And you need to start engaging everyone.
Yep. Yep. And Fernand Armandi, I understand, will be joining us on panel with a very important announcement. It's going to be a big night. Get those last remaining tickets, almost sold out. Malcolm, cannot wait to see you, sir.
All right. I'll see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday. There he goes. Malcolm Nance. Malcolm Nance.
Yeah.
You can dance.
I will not be wearing pants on Saturday. I won't. I'll be wearing a blue dress.
Well, why should it be different than any other?
Are you
Come
gonna
get your DNA on my blue dress for America, people.